They're ready for something different. I know I am. Perhaps more than any of them. Fortunately, nothing ever stays the same. It's entropy, the nature of the universe. Change is inevitable. And while entropy says order gives way to chaos, in this case, change is good.
At the core of the best Star Trek episodes lies hard-to-answer moral questions. Who's right? Who's wrong? Why are we in a position to do anything about it? This time, you're in the driver's seat, and this is your episode of Star Trek. You're answering the questions. This review is designed for the Star Trek fan who is totally unspoiled on this game. When I set out to do this review, I had a number of options. 1. A review for Star Trek fans that contained no spoilers. 2. A spoiler-filled review for Star Trek fans. 3. A review for general audiences that contain no spoilers. And lastly, a review for general audience that contains spoilers. After some deliberation, the first option seemed to benefit my own audience the best. Therefore, this review is targeted at longtime Star Trek fans who are not spoiled on this game in any way. To that end, this review will only contain footage from my playthrough of the game. The first part of the game, that is. History lesson. This game was developed by Dramatic Labs, which was founded by former staff in Telltale Games, who were apparently titans in the genre of interactive fiction or, quote, story-driven games, unquote. I wouldn't know this from first-hand experience, as I've never actually played a Telltale game before, and I'm also not a regular consumer of this type of game. If you don't know anything about this type of game, this may be the review for you. Let's do the worst first. The game is held together with tape, and everything mostly looks like garbage from a technical perspective. Glitches abound with broken materials, fuzzy reflections, and the odd broken line of dialogue.
I'll be on the starbase. I have an urgent meeting with the starbase commander to get our authorization to get underway.
I experienced one game crash in my roughly 10 hours of play, and numerous moments where I felt an impending crash was about to arrive but never did. We're not winning any awards here for the presentation of this game in any technical sense. None of this affected my enjoyment of the game in any way. However, it may not necessarily be the same for those who are not avid fans of the source material, since the attention to canon details that were on display smoothed over all these problems for me. Maybe not so for those who can only see the surface details, as ugly as they are. For what it's worth, I played the PS4 version of this game on a PlayStation 5. Everything else on offer wowed me as a general player and as a fan of the franchise. Like Star Trek itself, if I may go so boldly, the beating heart of this story is the minute-to-minute complex questions that the player is presented with. Notice I called it story and not a game. Not everything is black and white. But are you playing as yourself, the character themselves, or the character you think they should be? Make the choices as you see fit. In my own experience, a few of these questions really caught me off guard, made me sweat, and made me think. I look forward to playing again while making different choices, but the story I experienced was more than enough excitement for me, and may have been more exciting than recent live-action or animated offerings from this franchise. Expect twists and turns, and the story to go places you never expected. You experience the game from 2 points of view, one from the bridge, and one from the lower decks, if you will. This choice is genius, as it establishes a total view of the starship, the Resolute, and by extrapolation, Starfleet itself, the organization that your characters belong to. The ship really becomes a character if you can see it from all angles. The ship is the hero, but our team effort makes its victories possible. J.R. Rydek and Carter Diaz are the playable characters you control, making their choices, answering questions for them, and deciding who they really are. The ball is in your court. In my playthrough, Carter Diaz ended up being a new favorite character of mine, even when stacked up against the legends of old. In my opinion, we're really only lacking in the villain department, which is sad, because the villain is what makes our hero struggle, and struggle is what makes victories worth having in the first place, but your mileage may vary. From a play perspective, you can expect context-sensitive button prompts, or QuickTime events, and shootout sections that require aiming on behalf of the player. My favorite bits were the moments where I could freely walk around and use the tricorder, just like in the show. But a special note are the unique mini-games that are presented to the player, usually as a time-sensitive puzzle. Think using the transporter or using a bridge console of some sort. Fun stuff. Musically, this game fits snugly into the sonic universe of Star Trek. This music isn't comfortable with sitting in the background, which is a refreshing change from the style of sleepy, boring music that was present on screen when Star Trek looked similar to this game. Just a personal opinion. I would venture to say that this soundtrack may even beat recent outings from this franchise on screen, and I expect to be listening to this game's soundtrack in my regular rotation. For the Star Trek fans out there, break out your Starship Spotters guide and also expect a few guest appearances from people you know and some you may have almost forgotten. Needless to say, the performances are spot on, but one guest appearance is a little obvious and quite played out at this point. I found myself wasting time, doing nothing, and just observing my surroundings in all their glory and time period appropriate design. The significance of that may be easily lost on those not well acquainted with recent Star Trek. I can't tell you how happy I am to be not disappointed with this game. To put it succinctly, if you love Star Trek, you already love this game. From one fan to what I'm sure is another, thank you to Dramatic Labs for such a great gift. At the time of this review, this game is available on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, Windows through the Epic Game Store, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X or S. Star Trek Resurgence is receiving a prestigious 8.5 out of 10 from me. We needed a more interesting and formidable villain, given the circumstances. Here's hoping for more adventures with the Resolute and her crew.